So, UFC on Fox 30 is upon us. I kind of get confused with the numbers because there's obviously UFC Fight Nights and UFC on Fox events, and we'll just go with UFC on Fox 30. Or if you really want to go with it, Dustin Poirier versus Eddie Alvarez 2, which is tonight, and it's a really, really anticipated matchup by both. Obviously, if you remember last time, there was a controversial finish, which was turned to a no contest because Eddie Alvarez had, dealt two illegal knees to a grounded opponent in Dustin Poirier. Herb Dean called the fight, and then it was big hubbub over is it going to be a disqualification win for Poirier. But Herb Dean was heard saying to Mark Ratner, who's obviously the UFC VP, that it would be a no contest. He believed that it was an accidental knee, but I mean, if it's two clearly illegal knees. But hey, look, we get to run it back, and the first fight was insane. It was brewing up to be an insane fight. The first round, it was nice back and forth action, both guys feeling each other out. Really, really fun kind of technical striking battle between the two. Obviously now, Eddie Alvarez has great boxing. We all know that. Dustin Poirier has calmed himself down a bit. He's not really getting engaged in brawls as such anymore, which has led him to be knocked out here and there, lets his emotions get in the way, and ends up costing him more fights than he wins. But he's always an entertaining fighter. But he's now on a really, really good streak. What was his record? I mean, he's got two solid wins since the Alvarez fight. In Justin Gaethje and in Anthony Pettis. Two very highly ranked fighters, and two finishes from those is nothing to be sniffed at. But in the first fight, Poirier caused Alvarez a lot of issues. In terms of so Eddie Alvarez is an orthodox stance fighter. Poirier is a southpaw and was able to clip Alvarez a couple of times with some nice right hooks, because obviously the side that Alvarez is used to defending was his hands are a bit lower, ended up getting caught, getting dropped in the second round, which led to a frantic flurry of back and forth punches, just an all-out brawl in the cage. Alvarez looked out on his feet, he was staggering backwards. Herb Dean really could have called it at any time, didn't, allowed the fight to go on. Alvarez came back with some more short shots which stumbled Poirier back to his feet. Poirier ended up falling to the mat, and like I say, hand on the ground, knee on the ground. You can't knee, but Alvarez in the moment just threw two consecutive illegal knees. That's when the fight was stopped. But now we get to run it back, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens. Look, Alvarez is not, in my opinion, a dirty fighter. I think it was just the emotions, and I think in the moment he just sensed the finish. He probably thought that Poirier was going to raise his hand and play the kind of hand on the mat game. Didn't work out that way, but look, we get to run it back, and it was a barnstormer of a fight the last time for however long it lasted. And it's an interesting one now, because obviously both guys have fought since they fought each other. Now Poirier has fought twice more than Alvarez has. Alvarez's last fight, though, also a nice knockout win over Justin Gaethje, who is a phenomenal striker in itself. He's a wild, reckless type of fighter. And also Poirier, like I mentioned, also has a win over Justin Gaethje. So this is a really interesting fight now, because the winner surely is next in line, most likely for a title shot. We don't know who, to be fair now, we do not know if it's going to be a waiting game for the two of them. Are they going to have to wait for Conor and Khabib Nurmagomedov to be announced? We don't know. There was talk last night from a few kind of Twitter people, not really reputable, reliable sources, saying that perhaps that event will be announced on this fight card, which would make a lot of sense, really, considering it's a big audience. It's on Fox in America, which is obviously big network over there. The more viewers, the better, the more hype they can generate. So you never know. They might announce it. The winner then might wait for the winner of Khabib and Conor. But that's kind of getting a bit ahead of ourselves. But as for this fight, how do I see it going? I mean, I think Poirier, since he's a very entertaining fighter, but he's calmed down a lot. He's not getting engaged in these wars He's picking his shots. He's not following up as recklessly as he once was. But Alvarez has got some really good striking. And if Alvarez can drag Poirier into a war and a brawl he doesn't want to be engaged in, Alvarez has, in my opinion, the stronger boxing. But that southpaw stance is going to cause him a bit of havoc. Because if Alvarez decides to go all in with a barrage of punches and combinations galore, he's going to get clipped if Poirier can get the timing down. If he can just slip, throw maybe a hook off an angle, and which will leave Poirier's his left side really exposed to throw the right hook and could really land big with a counter punch. It's such an enthralling fight. Poirier's got very good takedown defense. Alvarez is, he's not a bad wrestler, but he's far better on the feet. Poirier, look, if things get desperate, he's got a really good ground game. I think he's underrated ground game because people know him for his kind of all-out striking kind of battles. So I'm interested to see the fight. Personally, okay, I'm gonna lay it out there. I think Poirier wins this fight. I think since his move, pardon me. I think since the Conor loss, I think he's learned a lot since then about himself, and he's come on leaps and bounds as a fighter. I think Alvarez is a top quality fighter. Do not get me wrong. He's one of the best lightweights in the world, but I think Poirier will learn a lot from the first fight and knows that he has the power to really, really hurt Alvarez, especially if Alvarez is coming forward. And the stance, like I say, I think will cause a lot of issues for Poirier, or for Alvarez, excuse me. So I'm going all in. I don't know. I'm going to say a third round TKO finish from Dustin Poirier. But you never know. This is MMA. Anything could happen. But I'm really looking forward to seeing the fight, and fingers crossed that we do not get any sort of controversial decision that will taint this fight. And I really don't want them to run it back a third time, because I really want to see the fight again. The first one was an absolute brawl. Loved every second of it while it lasted. Shame about the finish, but listen, we get to run it back. It's a 5-round fight this time, so let's hope for the best and hope that we get an absolute classic in the lightweight division. But speaking of fighters also who I believe have calmed down a lot and have really been on a solid tear, Jeremy Stephens takes on Jose Aldo in the co-main event of the evening, and I really, really like what Jeremy Stephens is doing as of late. He's on a 3-fight win streak. He has 2 of his last 3 fights are finishes, and a really, really impressive win over Josh Emmett earlier on in the year. And obviously Josh Emmett was a really good, solid, up-and-coming surprise kind of package in a way in the featherweight division. But Jeremy Stephens, I just really like what he's doing. We all know Stephens has great power, and a bit like Poirier, would also kind of jump in and get reckless, leave himself exposed, get caught with a counter punch, and get knocked out. Or leave himself open to vicious strikes from bottom, ending up on bottom. But I really, really like what Stephens is doing, and this is a big, big fight for him against Jose Aldo. Now, I know Aldo, his stock has kind of fallen since. He's 2 losses on the bounce. He wants to avoid a third. Obviously, the last 2 losses are to the current champion, Max Holloway, but he got beaten all ends up in that fight. And, obviously Max Holloway is a fantastic striker. He's got great footwork, great movement. Jeremy Stephens also has great footwork and great movement, and is just a stellar puncher in the division. For 145 pound to have that much power behind his hand, he's probably akin to the power of Conor McGregor at that level. He's just got phenomenal strength, and if Aldo isn't careful, he's going to find himself I think in danger really, really early. If Aldo can take this fight to the mat, this is where he'll have the advantage. Stephens is good off his back, do not get me wrong, but Aldo is supremely good on the ground, is an amazing submission artist on his day, and this is where I think he needs to shine. I know he may feel like he wants to prove himself and go out there with a spectacular big win, but he needs to be really, really careful, because he's in danger of dropping out of the top 10, I believe, with a loss tonight against Stephens. But Stephens can propel himself obviously even further towards that featherweight title shot. I'm looking forward to the fight. I'm just wondering what kind of headspace Aldo is going to be in. Those are two big losses he took. The guy is a phenomenal athlete, has been at the top of the game for a long, long time. But the Conor loss and then the two subsequent Max Holloway losses, I think are going to play havoc with him. I hope he's in the right place mentally, because I really just want this to be a competitive fight, and I hope that his headspace is in it. Otherwise, it's going to be a long night for him, because Stevens is no slouch. He's no joke. As much as everyone kind of clowns around with the Conor McGregor, who the fuck is that guy thing, he's a legitimate striker. He's a legitimate featherweight, and if he's not careful, he'll get slept big time. If he's not careful, because I just think that momentum is the big thing in MMA. And Stevens, looking for a fourth win in a row. I think this is his time to shine. But I think he'll win the fight. I really do. I just hope that Aldo just hasn't, gone completely away, and that we see a kind of rejuvenated Aldo who puts all those fights to bed and says, "Look, here's a clean slate. The first time I fought in 2018. Let's go for it. Let's see what we can do." And look, you never know. Again, this is mixed martial arts, and anything can happen at any given second, at any moment, at any fight, anywhere. But I just think that Stevens has enough. I think he's far better than Aldo is currently, and I expect him to fully win the fight. But it's such an interesting contest. The two fights I've just mentioned are phenomenally good fights, and the third fight down, just before the co-main event, is the return of Joanna Jędrzejczyk, who's fighting Tisha Torres. Now, obviously, Jędrzejczyk has, similar to Aldo, has lost twice to the champion. Obviously, she lost her belt to Rose Namajunas the first time, but in a rematch also got badly beaten. It was almost like Jędrzejczyk was kind of hesitant to throw anything in case she got countered again. We all know that Joanna is ferocious. She is just non-stop forward pressure all the time, pushing the action, getting shots off first, but she seemed so tentative in the last fight against Namajunas. I think it was mainly for the fact that she knows that she got clipped badly the last time. And Namajunas, such a good technical striker, good technical grappler, and really wrapped Jędrzejczyk up. And on the flip side, then we have Tisha Torres, who was coming off a loss as well. And interesting enough, I mean, she's only got one finish win on her career, and that was by submission. And I think in many ways this is a fight that will suit Jędrzejczyk more than it will Torres, because I think Jędrzejczyk has the better striking than Torres does. I think Jędrzejczyk will find openings and will again push the action forward. But again, it all depends on Jędrzejczyk's mindset. How is she feeling after those two losses? She's not the champion anymore. She wants to get back there. But a loss to Tisha Torres would really set her back maybe 2 or 3 fights in terms of getting back to where she needs to be. She's still a great athlete, but again, it's all about headspace, and it's all about how you're feeling after a loss, especially after 2 losses at the highest level within the division, 2 title shots on the bounce. But for Torres, it's a great opportunity for her to really upset the odds, because she's a sizable underdog in this fight. She's going to look to grapple. She's going to look to take the fight to the ground. She's going to look to frustrate Joanna, do her best, land elbows, land everything she can to just completely take Joanna out of her game, take her out of her game plan. But I do think this is a tailor-made fight for Jędrzejczyk. If, like I say, she can get the jitters out of her head, if she can blow off the cobwebs and say, look, what happened last time out happened last time out. It's done. This fight is on now. I have a new competitor in front of me. Let's just go with it. I'm interested to see it. I do like Tisha Torres. I think she's a really good, gritty fighter. But without kind of, she's not exactly the one you think of, as a reliable finisher. Like I say, she's only got one finish in her career so far by submission, and that was a while ago. So I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do. I hope that she's upped her game. She'll have to, absolutely, because Jędrzejczyk is probably the biggest fight she'll have so far in her career. It is a really interesting fight on paper. Again, if Torres can disrupt Joanna early, it'll make for fascinating viewing, and I can't wait to see it. But those are the top 3 fights on the card, and those 3 fights I alluded to earlier on in the podcast earlier on this week, that they would fill any pay-per-view card anywhere down the line. I know the records don't look great, recent records anyway, but these are high level, fighters, who fought for titles and, been in main events galore along the way. It's a really fun, fascinating fight card. I can't wait to see it. All the details, I'm going to post a fight card, how to watch, etc., etc., all on the website. All the details will be down below. So you can follow along on the Twitter, you can follow along on the Facebook, you can follow along on the website, get involved, get your opinions in, who's doing what, who's doing, who's going to win what fight by what way. Just get involved. It's going to be a great night of fight. It's on at a very reasonable time for UK and Irish viewers, so no excuse really to not stay up and watch it. But it's going to be a really, really good card. But like I said, keep an eye on the website, and until, I guess, tomorrow, guys, when we do the post-fight podcast with myself and Craig, we see you then, and enjoy the fights.